NGOs are a new form of colonialism. But wait a minute, wasn't colonialism when a bunch of rich countries took over poor countries? Like England and India, or England and South Africa, or England and Ireland? But NGOs are good, right? Well, let's take a look. Let's first clarify what exactly NGOs are. An NGO stands for a non-government organisation. There are nearly endless amounts of NGOs all over the world. Most are related to human rights, healthcare, and education. International development NGOs are simply related to international development. Now let's look at a few NGOs. Doctors Without Borders. In 2010, they were some of the first responders to the devastating earthquake in Haiti. They treated over 17,000 patients, fixed 26 broken water pipes, and shipped in 10 million litres of drinking water. Or how about Amnesty International, another world-renowned NGO? They've been fighting for people's rights for the last 70 years. They've campaigned for stricter regulations on arms trades, abolishing the death penalty, and implementing women's rights. Closer to home, we have the Irish Red Cross. They often provide first aid at many events throughout Ireland, and in 2016 they provided first aid for over 2,000 patients. USAID is one of the largest funders of NGOs around the world. It stands for United States Agency of International Development and has a budget of $27 billion annually. The US government funds USAID, and then USAID in turn funds individual NGOs. But here's something USAID may not want you to know. The Office of Public Safety was set up by the US government as part of USAID. However, many refer to it as a proxy for the CIA. Its goal was to train police forces in countries such as Brazil, Uruguay, and Bolivia. In the 1960s, democratically elected Brazilian President Jean Goulart was overthrown by a US-backed coup. In the interest of the US government, a right-wing military president was then installed, and the OPS was sent in to train its police force in techniques such as explosive handling and interrogation techniques. Under this new regime, many innocent Brazilians were jailed, tortured, and even murdered. Similar to the Trojan horse, the US government used USAID as a cover to implant itself within Brazil and then spread its own political agenda. It installed a puppet government and trained a police force to keep the population in line. Is this a new form of colonialism? Another example of USAID meddling in other countries' politics is the creation of Zunzineo. It was created by USAID in 2010 and targeted at Cuba as a social networking website. However, its real intentions was to lure the youth of Cuba to rebel against its communist government. However, it failed, and in 2010 it was dissolved. Brazil and Cuba are both excellent examples of how aid can be used as a cover for secretly spreading a country's own beliefs and politics, much like how the European empires did with their colonies in the past. So far we've touched on the political side of things, but can NGOs also affect a country's culture, perhaps changing or altering native customs, religious beliefs, or even traditions? Recently in Zimbabwe, a mother took a lawsuit to the High Court calling for a nationwide ban on corporal punishment in schools and homes. She was funded by the NGO Justice for Children. Beating children as a method of discipline was, like in many countries, a very accepted and traditional way. However, the High Court ruled in her favour, banning all corporal punishment. Although in most developed countries beating kids is a thing of the past, in Africa and many other parts of the world, people still believe in it quite strongly. Many native Zimbabweans were very angry at the ruling, claiming they should have the right to raise their kids as they see fit. So, is this Western oppression of African traditions and customs, or is it the right thing to do in accordance with basic human rights? The scale must be a finely balanced one. On one hand, big European NGOs and corporations coming into African countries, spreading its ideas about right and wrong, may seem very ironic to many Africans, since it's these same countries which plundered it in the past. However, as leading democracies in the world, it is up to these countries to ensure the safety and quality of life for not just its own citizens, but of the citizens of the entire world. Summarising everything, it is important to say NGOs are good. Such NGOs like Doctors Without Borders, Amnesty International and the Red Cross, as well as countless others, are genuine, honest, hard-working groups which do great work, improving the lives of hundreds of thousands of people. However, much like a Where's Wally puzzle, with the vast number of NGOs in the world, it can be easy for governments to exploit the system for its own political use, without being noticed. We also need to be respectful of other countries' cultures and traditions, and not impose Western values on them. Thank you for your time, and we hope you enjoyed the presentation.